I'm Alicia Foster, 34. And I used to think loyalty and family were unbreakable. I believed doing everything right would keep love steady. I climbed to marketing director at a top firm, hit 6 figures, and bought a home in Madison, Wisconsin. Just so my little sister could have a safe place after life shattered us both. But giving someone stability doesn't mean they'll stand by you when it's your turn to fall. It took one accident, one terrible twisting fall, to see the truth. For 3 years my sister lived rent-free in the house I paid for. It was meant to be our safe haven after our parents' car crash took them too soon. I wanted to protect her, give her time to heal, to restart both our lives. Everything was fine. Until the day my legs snapped and the world slowed into pain and silence. I still hear the sound. Bone meeting metal railing. My breath catching as my body hit the stairs. I'd been rushing for a meeting, coffee, laptop, phone, the usual corporate chaos. One misstep, one slip of the heel, and I went down hard. Coworkers shouted my name. Flashes of light. Ambulance sirens. Then the sterile mask of the ER ceiling. They said it was a clean break of the femur with an ankle fracture, but nothing felt clean about the pain. 6 weeks of immobility. My world shrank to the outline of a bed. I thought at least Brooke would help. At first she did, or seemed to. She moved her things into the living room to stay close. Brought me water. Adjusted my pillows. Even made breakfast those first few mornings. "I've got you," she said softly, brushing hair from my eyes like we were kids again. Her voice was kind, but there was a flicker behind her smile. Strain. Maybe anger. I ignored it. Too tired. Too doped up. Too desperate to believe everything was okay. Days blurred into weeks. My leg itched inside the cast. My laptop became my lifeline. I joined meetings from bed. Sent proposals while balancing coffee on a tray. The room smelled of antiseptic and old tea. I kept thanking Brooke, but the word thanks made her tense. Her answers grew shorter. Her sighs louder. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. A mug of coffee slipped from my trembling hands. Brown stains spread across the rug. I gasped an apology, reaching for paper towels, but before I could move, she exploded. "We're not your damn servants." The scream froze the air. Her voice cracked with anger. Not new but old and festering. Something she'd buried too long. I just stared, unable to move. Pain radiating like fire. It wasn't just her tone. It was the look, pure resentment. The kind that doesn't appear in a moment. The kind that's grown over years. 6 weeks of relying on her. 6 years of helping her. And in one shout, she reduced it all to nothing. I didn't yell back. Didn't cry. My heart just went silent. Then slowly I said, "You have 5 minutes. Get out of my house." It was the hardest sentence I'd ever spoken, but something in me had snapped, louder than the bone weeks earlier. This wasn't just about spilled coffee. It was about years of hidden anger, rooted in old wounds we never healed. And with those words, "Get out," my life tilted again. Not from pain this time, but from the freedom of finally drawing a line. You want to know how it came to that moment? Why I kicked out the one person I thought I could trust? Let me start at the very beginning. Back in Madison, before everything fell apart, we were the neat little family everyone envied. Dad, Robert Foster, was a high school teacher with the patience of a saint. He'd sit beside me at the kitchen table after dinner, pencil in hand. "You can be anything, Alicia. Doctor, lawyer, CEO. It's all in you." Every time he said it, I believed him more. Brooke, my sister 6 years younger, was a whirlwind of energy and half-finished art projects. When she laughed, it filled the house. Dad adored her too. "You'll change the world one day, kiddo." His love never played favorites. He saw potential in both of us. Mom, Patricia Foster, loved us in her own way, but her love had sharp edges. She compared. She measured us like 2 halves of a report card. "Why can't you be more like Alicia?" she'd scold Brooke. Other nights she'd sigh at me. "Your sister's so creative, Alicia. You should try relaxing." At the time I thought it was harmless. Just mom being mom. But years later, when Brooke's bitterness surfaced, every word from those old dinners came roaring back. Dad's passing changed everything. He and mom died together. 2 kind souls erased in an instant by a drunk driver's mistake. The call came in the middle of the night. One second I was pushing through marketing reports. The next, my world broke into glass. Brooke was 25, fragile, furious at life. For weeks she couldn't face sunlight. I was 31. Already managing teams, balancing grief with survival. Bills, funeral logistics, the will. All of it fell to me. After the dust settled, I decided to give Brooke something steady. I'd buy a house big enough for both of us. Keep her safe. Keep her close. It's what Dad would have wanted. Or so I convinced myself. I found a beautiful 3-bedroom home north of Madison. White shutters. Brick path. The kind of place that felt like hope reborn. I covered the $100,000 down payment and took on the mortgage alone. When Brooke moved in, she cried. Hugged me. Swore she'd repay me someday. She meant it then. I think we painted rooms together, laughed over pizza boxes, tried to rebuild a life that made sense without parents. But slowly reality shifted. Her part-time retail job didn't pay much, so I quietly covered utilities, groceries, even her phone bill. Don't worry, I'd say, echoing Dad's optimism. You'll find your path. Sometimes she'd mumble thanks. Other times she'd roll her eyes at advice she thought she didn't need. I noticed little changes. A colder tone, the way she'd mock my corporate job, saying I was married to marketing. I brushed it off as growing pains, convinced time would smooth the edges. Years passed. I kept giving, she kept taking. Maybe guilt made me blind. Maybe I thought if I gave her enough money, shelter, space, it would heal the cracks. But love without boundaries turns into something else entirely. To be why the time of my accident, the resentment had already taken root. I just hadn't seen how deep until the day she screamed at me that night after I told her to leave. The silence in the house was heavier than a stranger's absence. It was the sound of reality setting in. All I could think was how easily loyalty could twist into contempt, and that was the beginning of what came next. A story of trust broken, family redefined, and how far I would go to take my life back. I set up my laptop on a tray, joined virtual meetings, answered emails, tweaked ad campaigns from BMY. Boss was supportive, but I felt the pressure to prove I wasn't falling behind. Brooke was there every day, bringing meals, shifting my position, picking up my phone when it slid off the bed. But by the second week, I noticed a change. Her sighs grew heavier when I asked for help, her movements sharp like she was annoyed. Can you grab my charger? I'd ask. Brooke would roll her eyes before walking away. Once when I spilled water on the sheets. You need to be more careful, she snapped. Her words weren't cruel, not yet, but they carried an edge I hadn't expected. I told myself she was stressed, balancing her retail job and caring for me. I didn't want to seem ungrateful, not after paying for the house, the utilities, everything to keep her afloat. But the tension was there, like a crack in a dam growing wider each day. I kept pushing through, diving into work to escape the pain in Brooke's attitude. Late one night, during a client call, I overheard Brooke on the phone in the next room. Voice low but sharp. It's exhausting doing everything for her. My heart sank, fingers froze on the keyboard. Was I already a burden? I tried to brush it off, thinking she was just venting, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. The sister I'd given everything to was pulling away, and I was too weak to confront it. All I could do was lie there, trapped in my own body, hoping things would get better. By the third week, Brooke had changed completely. The small acts of care, bringing meals, adjusting pillows, started to feel like burdens to her. When I asked for a glass of water, she'd huff, lips tightening as she turned away. I'm not your maid, she muttered once, barely audible, as she set a bottle on the nightstand with a thud. I bit my tongue, not wanting to start a fight while stuck in bed, leg throbbing under the cast, but her refusals grew bolder. One morning, I asked for my pain meds. Brooke just stared, arms crossed. Can't you reach them yourself? She said, pointing to the bottle just out of grasp. I forced a weak smile, hoping to ease the tension, but inside I was reeling. How could she act like this, when I'd paid for the roof over her head? Then Wendy, my best friend since college, came to visit. She walked into the bedroom, warm smile fading as she took in the tension. Brooke was in the kitchen, slamming cabinets louder than necessary. I was struggling to sit up, wincing from the effort. Wendy pulled a chair close, eyes narrowing. Something's off, she said quietly, glancing toward the door. She'd always been perceptive, picking up on things I tried to ignore. I hesitated, then told her about Brooke's attitude. The eye rolls, the muttering. I didn't mention the phone call. I was too ashamed to repeat those words. Wendy listened, face serious. You need to watch her, she warned. She's not acting like family. Be careful, Alicia. Her words hit hard, stirring a fear I hadn't wanted to face. Brooke wasn't just stressed, she was resentful, and I was starting to wonder what she was capable of. 6 weeks after the accident, everything exploded on a Thursday morning. I was propped up in bed, balancing a mug of coffee while answering a work email. My hands, still shaky from pain meds, slipped, the mug tipped, coffee spilled across the sheets. I froze, hoping Brooke wouldn't notice, but she was already in the doorway, face twisted with irritation. "We're not your damn servants," she yelled, voice sharp enough to cut through the morning quiet. I stared, stunned, as she stood there, arms crossed, refusing to help. "Clean it up yourself," she snapped, turning away. The words hit like a punch, echoing the resentment I'd sensed building. My chest tightened with hurt, but anger surged hotter. I'd given Brooke a home, paid every bill, and now she couldn't even grab a towel. I couldn't hold back anymore. "You have 5 minutes to pack your things and leave," I said, voice low but steady, despite the pain pulsing in my leg. Brooke spun around, eyes wide with shock. "What did you say?" she demanded, stepping closer. I repeated it, louder this time, anger drowning out fear. "I've done everything for you. And this is how you treat me." The room felt electric, air thick with years of unspoken tension. Brooke's face flushed red. She started shouting, accusing me of holding the house over her head, acting like I was better than her. I shot back, voice shaking. "You've been living here for free and you call me a burden?" The argument escalated, words flying like knives. In the heat of it, I grabbed my phone to check a bank notification, something I hadn't done in weeks, and my heart stopped. There were transactions I didn't recognize. $5,000 to a luxury boutique, $2,000 for a new phone, $3,000 on designer bags. "Did you take my money?" I demanded, holding up the phone. Brooke's face paled, mouth opening then closing. "I deserved it," she finally spat, voice defiant. "You're always flaunting your success, making me feel small. I needed something for myself." I was speechless. The betrayal sliced deeper than her words. She'd stolen from me, used my accounts while I was bedbound, unable to check. I pointed to the door, voice cold. "Get out. Now." Brooke didn't back down, throwing insults, blaming me for everything. Our parents' death, her struggles. My expectations. But I was done. "You've got nothing left to say," I said, cutting her off. "Leave or I call the police." Her eyes flashed with anger, but she grabbed a bag, shoved clothes in, and stormed out, slamming the door. The house fell silent, the echo of her departure ringing in my ears. I was alone, still trapped in bed, leg itching, heart shattered. Brooke was gone, so was the illusion of the sister I thought I knew. I sat there, staring at the coffee-stained sheets, wondering how it had come to this point. 1 week after Brooke left, Wendy and I started cleaning the house. I was still bedbound, but Wendy insisted on helping, moving boxes in the living room while I directed from my wheelchair. We were sorting old stuff, trying to make the space feel less heavy, when Wendy found a dusty USB drive tucked in a drawer. "What's this?" she asked, holding it up. Curious, we plugged it into my laptop. A video popped up, grainy, filmed years ago on our old camcorder. Mom and Dad sat on the couch, smiling, voices warm. "Alicia." "Brooke," Mom said. "We want you to love each other always, be there for one another, and make us proud." Dad nodded. "You're both so strong. Build something beautiful together." The video ended, silence filled the room. My throat tightened, tears stinging. I'd failed them, hadn't I? The sisterhood they'd hoped for was gone. The weight of their words pressed on me. I kept replaying the video, hearing Mom's voice, seeing Dad's smile. Had I been too harsh, kicking Brooke out? Part of me wondered if I'd pushed her too far, if my anger had been cruel, but another part whispered, maybe this was what Brooke needed. A wake-up call to face her actions. He'll grow up. Maybe cutting her off was the only way to set us both free. Still, guilt gnawed at me, twisting with the pain of Brooke's betrayal. I'd given her everything, a home, stability, and she'd stolen from me. Was I wrong to hope she'd change? Or was this the final break we both needed? I didn't have answers, only questions that kept me up at night. Determined to understand the full scope of Brooke's actions, I dug deeper into my bank accounts. I'd only glimpsed the transactions during our fight. But now, with Wendy's help, I pulled up every statement. The numbers confirmed my worst fears. $10,000 transferred to cover her credit card debt, racked up on luxury purchases, designer clothes, jewelry, even a spa weekend. I stared at the screen, hands shaking. She hadn't just taken my money, she'd used it to live a life I was paying for, while calling me a burden behind my back. Wendy squeezed my shoulder, voice gentle but firm. "You didn't deserve this. She made her choices." Her words helped, but the sting of betrayal lingered sharper than the pain in my leg. That's when I knew I needed help to process it all. Wendy recommended a therapist, Dr. Daniel Carter, who specialized in family trauma. I booked a virtual session, nervous, but desperate to untangle the guilt, anger, hurt. Dr. Carter listened as I poured out the story, his calm presence grounding me. "You're carrying a lot," he said, voice steady. "It's okay to feel guilty, but you didn't break this bond alone. Brooke's actions have consequences." He suggested journaling to sort through my thoughts, to rebuild my sense of self. I left the session feeling lighter, not healed, but hopeful. Brooke was gone. The truth was out. Now I had to figure out who I was without her shadow. I decided to take action right after uncovering the truth. Brooke's betrayal, stealing $10,000, couldn't go unanswered. I contacted my bank, hands trembling as I explained the unauthorized transactions. The representative pulled up records, transfers to Brooke's credit, card luxury purchases, designer clothes, jewelry, a spa weekend. "We'll file a fraud report," she said, voice professional but empathetic. This could impact her credit significantly. I hesitated. Mom and Dad's faces from the video flashed in my mind, their plea for us to stay united, but Brooke had crossed a line. I nodded. "Go ahead." Days later, the bank froze Brooke's accounts and flagged her credit. She'd have to survive on her own without my safety net. With Brooke gone, I couldn't manage alone, still confined to a wheelchair, leg in a cast. Wendy connected me with Pamela Morgan, a home care nurse with a warm smile and steady hands. Pamela arrived the next week, helping with bathing, dressing, getting to the bathroom. Things Brooke had begrudged. "You're doing great," Pamela said one morning, adjusting my leg brace with care. Her kindness eased the sting of dependence, but I knew I needed to push forward physically. My doctor referred me to Jason Reed, a physical therapist specializing in post-fracture recovery. Jason's sessions were grueling, guiding me through exercises to rebuild strength. "Small steps," he'd say, steadying me as I gripped the parallel bars, sweat beading on my forehead. Each session was a reminder of how far I had to go, and how far I'd come. Wendy became my anchor through it all. She stopped by almost daily, helping reorganize the house for accessibility, moving furniture, setting up a ramp, sorting through old papers Brooke had left scattered. One evening, over takeout pizza, Wendy looked at me, eyes serious. "You've been carrying Brooke for too long. It's time to focus on you. Your health, your career, your peace." Her words hit hard, cutting through the fog of guilt and hurt. She was right. I'd spent years putting Brooke's needs above my own, thinking it was my duty as the older sister. Wendy pushed me to set new routines. Morning stretches with Pamela, work from home schedules, small moments like reading a book without worrying about Brooke's chaos. Slowly, I started feeling like myself again, not just a caretaker. The hardest truth came in quiet moments. I couldn't save my relationship with Brooke. I'd tried for years. Paying her bills, giving her a home, hoping she'd grow into the sister Mom and Dad wanted. But her actions, stealing, lying, blaming me, showed she wasn't ready to change. I thought about calling her, offering one last chance, but Dr. Carter's words echoed. "You can't control her choices, only your boundaries." I pictured Brooke struggling without my support. Part of me ached for her. But I'd given enough. Letting her go wasn't just about protecting myself. It was about accepting that some bonds, even family, can't be forced. I turned my focus inward, determined to build my life one painful step at a time. 6 months later, I stood in the backyard of the house for the last time. The for sale sign was up, grass neatly trimmed for the open house. I decided to let go of the place that held so many memories, some warm, most painful. The house was too big for me alone, too heavy with the weight of Brooke's betrayal. I signed papers with a realtor and bought a small apartment in downtown Madison, closer to my office, closer to a fresh start. The new place had high windows, a cozy balcony, and just enough space to build my life without the echoes of the past. Moving day was bittersweet, but as I unpacked boxes in my new home, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in years. I hadn't spoken to Brooke since she stormed out, and I chose to keep it that way. No texts, no calls, no attempts to reconcile. I'd heard through a mutual friend that she was struggling, working extra shifts to cover debts after the bank flagged her credit. Part of me wanted to reach out, see if she'd changed, but I stopped myself. Dr. Carter's words stayed with me. "You can't force someone to respect you." Brooke had shown me who she was, through her theft, resentment, refusal to take responsibility. Letting her go wasn't easy, but it was final. I blocked her number, deleted her from social media, and closed the door on a relationship that had drained me for too long. Wendy and my other friends became my lifeline. Wendy helped me settle in, organizing furniture, hosting a small housewarming with our college friends. Their laughter filled the space, a stark contrast to the tension that had defined my old home. That I threw myself into my career, taking on new marketing projects with a focus I hadn't had in months. My leg was healing. Thanks to Jason's therapy, I could walk short distances without pain. I started jogging again. Slow laps around a park near my apartment, feeling strength return. Wendy joined me sometimes, cheering me on as I pushed past limits. "You're unstoppable now," she said one morning, grin wide. Their support reminded me, family could be chosen, not just inherited. Looking back, I learned a hard but necessary lesson. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. I'd spent years believing family meant carrying Brooke's weight, no matter how much it hurt me. But family isn't just blood, it's built on mutual respect, trust, and accountability. Brooke broke that trust. I had to choose myself over a toxic bond. That choice wasn't about revenge or cruelty. It was about protecting my peace, my future. As I stood on my new balcony, watching the sunset, I felt whole again. The scars were there, but they didn't define me. I was ready to move forward, grounded in the truth that I deserved a life built on my own terms.